What's up, y'all? It's just Rhonda. Welcome to my channel. It's Wednesday. We're slowly working our way through this work week, y'all. It's hump day. Everybody getting their humps on? Anybody humping out there? I don't mean that kind of humping. I mean humping, hustling. That's what we do. We trying to get to this coin, get through this life that we live in some types of peace. It's a little difficult out here to be peaceful. I don't want to dwell on that because that ain't what we came here for. But it wouldn't be me if I didn't bring it up. I feel like it's a responsibility of mine to come over here and share things that are not just for fun and entertainment, but also about a little bit of knowledge. Now, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge for y'all today because I didn't prepare anything, but I just, be careful out there. That's all I'm saying. Be careful out there. You see a lot of people moving real aggressively. Like, I don't know about y'all, but where I live, like, there's the most aggressive drivers that I think I've ever encountered in my life. And it's scary, like how these people are out here moving in such, dangerous ways. So yeah, be careful out there. Be careful in the traffic. Be careful in the stores. Keep your eye on the pivot. Keep your eye on the pivot. That's all I'm saying, y'all. We're here to discuss Project Runway. It's season 21. It's episode 7. This week's episode was a runway rodeo. We all out here getting our best cowboy on. I'm a Floridian. I say that all the time. I'm a Michigander by birth, but I'm a Floridian in life right now. So, I be rolling down the street, catching a little alligator, doing the alligator things. And you never know. I've seen warhogs and all kinds of deer and just, it's a jungle out there. So, if you're living in these parts, you got to keep your head on swivel. Even when you're on a walk, keep your head on swivel because you don't know what kind of creature might come from out them bushes. I ain't run across no creatures today. It was just a regular Wednesday. But we do our cowboy thing. I have a few cowboy hats. I don't know if y'all have cowboy hats. I have cowboy hats because I'm, like country. Not because Beyonce, not because of Yellowstone, although I like Yellowstone. Y'all need to figure out a way to bring that back. But over here on Project Runway this week, that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring these fashions on down the runway rodeo style. But before we do that, we have to, because they've decided that we have to wait until the following week to find out who's in the bottom or who goes home. I feel like we knew who was going home. Where do we start off? We start out with Miss Joan and Yu Chin in the bottom with their streetwear looks that nobody really cared for, I don't think. I mean, we critiqued them last week. I feel like if I was going to be one of the judges, my personal opinion is that Yu Chin's look is far worse than Miss Jones. But, my opinion don't count nowhere but over here on my channel. And so that's what I think. Is it streetwear? I guess it's giving streetwear to some extent. Like I said, streetwear is somewhat hard to define, and somebody had to go home, so they sent home Miss Joan. I think Miss Joan, who I was a big fan of her tailoring, kept making suits every week, and she was not really willing to come out of her comfort zone. But I feel like Yu Chin over here is suffering from the same issues. Oh, I know, Kylie. You like Miss Jones. She's gone. You have to go on her Instagram and see what Miss Jones was doing, prior to coming here. And she talked about that. Miss Jones says she is 60 years old and she was serving on the runway. And not only does she have fashions, but she got a cute little runway walk. It's interesting because everyone, not just us, Kylie, but also the people in the workroom, everyone really loved Miss Jones. She had definitely effect on all of them. Everybody was in tears except her. I think she was just thinking this was a dope thing to add to my resume, my repertoire, what have you. But Miss Jones has a successful business. So if anything, Project Runway did for her was put some more eyes on her so she could get that money. like I was saying, I think Miss Joan and Yu Chin are similar in that they don't want to like listen to anyone's input. And sometimes that's important. You got to step away from what you're doing and allow, the opportunity to learn from each other to, marinate a little bit, come out. They did all these group challenges, didn't do anything for either of these two. They weren't being in the group I mean, Miss Joan did. Miss Chin not so much. He wasn't in the group trying to be blendable. Miss Joan tried that and it didn't work in her favor necessarily. So anyway, Miss Joan is out, and it was nice to see like how everyone was so disappointed to see her go, even though this is a competition. Because I didn't see them respond that way to anybody else. Everybody else, they was like, sorry about your luck. Goodbye, and have a nice life. Let's get these people out of here because it's a competition. So bye, Miss Joan. Hopefully, we'll see you somewhere else, in this fashion world that we live in. Um, I guess they were at their apartment. This is another one of the things that they have cut out. So for whatever reason, Melania is over here on the floor doing yoga. I don't know that it's a bad idea necessarily. You probably should bring your yoga mat to the workroom because there's a lot of ergonomics that goes on over here that's not necessarily body friendly. You'd be bending over tables, stooping down on floors. So you might need to bring your yoga mat, to stretch things out because you're not always, in good posture and things. You go to bed with a sore neck and sore knees. I'm not speaking for what I heard. I'm telling you what I know because I've spent a lot of time doing it. The designers are discussing how Melania and Antonio have a bit of a problem with criticism. And you should expect that you're going to be criticized. I'm really tired of all the Law Roach hate because Law is not the first one that came over here with snarky little comments. Michael Kors used to be tearing him up in his critiques, but y'all still love him. Law Roach is new, like it's season 21. He's not new to, fashion by any means, but he's new to this judges' chairs. So, I'm speaking about the Project Runway, Facebook page. Got to keep your ears to the street, see what the people are saying. Anyway, I feel like his criticism are snarky and what have you. And you just, Melania, you're going to have to learn how to hide your emotions a little bit. And I can see on both sides of the situation. I can't imagine you sit there, you pour your everything into your design. It's not a lot of time, not a lot of sleep, not a lot of opportunity to really bring your creation into fruition, and you got to run it out there whether you like it or not, only for La Roche to say it looked like Tacky and Jackie. So, and even when, Melania, who took home the prize last week for being the top designer, she still got a critique of, I don't like your story. They don't like La Roche because he's a black queen. Clock it. I won't disagree with that. And it's probably like, a certain demographic of people over in the Project Runway Facebook page that, because they're like, Tim Gunn. And we all love Tim Gunn. There's no doubt about that. But in 21 seasons, Tim Gunn has never been a judge. So bringing back La Roche, Tim Gunn don't have nothing to do with La Roche sitting over in that judge's table, chair, whatever he's doing. And he's hot in fashion, right? La Roche was front row at the MTV Awards. So, even though I don't know who those people are anymore, he's still in the know. And those are the up and comings, the ones that he's dressing. I feel like he might have been there because he dressed, what's her name? Sabrina Carpenter, who's very hot right now. So, this is your opportunity. Honestly, if any one of these people, in my opinion, was going to dress Sabrina Carpenter. Is it Sabrina or Serena? Sabrina Carpenter, I think. I don't know any of her music. I just keep seeing her on, runways and things. I feel like Antonio, as much as I don't really like Antonio's aesthetic, I feel like he would be in her lane. So, just because I'm not a fan of his aesthetic, I feel like there's a place, for people with different style. So yeah, La Roche is an important person to be able to have a rapport with. So Melania, fix your face. But who said that? Sheree, fix your face. Fix your teeth. Sorry, that was a little Housewives of Atlanta. Um, Christian comes in here on a horse. Now I want to go horseback back riding because I used to go horseback riding with my sister. And when I seen Chris on that horse, I was like, oh, it just took me back to a time, me and my sissy going horseback riding together. It's very fun. I didn't have no step stool. I had to jump off of there. You have see, I've been horseback riding things since I was a child. So this new cowboy thing that y'all are going through is something, and that was when I was in Michigan. That was before I ever moved down to Florida. Anyway, the designers take a trip to Mood. Was Christian there? Yeah, he was there. He was trying to help. He was trying to help these people out. Everyone except VJ gravitated towards the leather, and I understand why. Because first thing you need to do as a designer is understand what the challenge is. The challenge is a rodeo look for the runway. That means they want to see some design. They want you to not necessarily reinvent, but elevate the look, make it more modern. See what you can bring to the table that's different than what we've been seeing before. Leather, suede, snakeskin. Those are all things that would be considered rodeo. I think Yu Chin, where he missed the mark, instead of going for that glittery on stage, over the top look, they said Beyonce, he went straight to the silver sequins. Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour is over. So it's time for you to do what's next. That's what we're doing here. And he should have, maybe gravitated towards he brought up Tibetan fashion. And Tibetan fashion there's definitely elements of Tibetan fashion that you would consider in the Western realm. He said it himself. There's these fabrics that, look like Native American cloth. And there's other things that he could have done to tap into his culture, because we're going to try to use that as a culture. I don't know Dolly Parton, so therefore I don't know Western. Stop it. That's, not an excuse. He could have made something really dope and he would have been completely different than everybody else on the stage. If he would have made a dress, I'm reinventing the wheel, but here we go. If he would have made a dress out of, some of that Tibetan inspired, Native American inspired fabric, we might not be having this discussion that we're about to have about Yu Chin, but I'm getting ahead of myself. VJ doesn't. She doesn't want any leather. She wants to do something different than everybody else. She did. She went and bought some red vinyl. Why does she do that? She wants a plastic dress. That's so Western, girl. These people are continuously getting only one day to, construct their fashion, their design. So you have to take that into consideration. VJ got in her feelings and decided she was going to make a vinyl dress to be different than everybody else. So if she did anything, she definitely executed that. The Estradas are Mexican. So, Western is a part of their culture. They grew up in that element. Probably, I think he said they were from New Mexico or somewhere over on the, on the West Coast. So, they're inbred and, it's in their culture. So they have a advantage. Sometimes it works to advantage. At least they know little different intricate things that maybe Yu Chin doesn't know. So we're going to find out, child. Let's get over to the workroom. Jesus is over here ironing his fabric because he's putting interfacing on leather. Now, this has happened to me before. There's nothing worse than being in the middle of trying to create looks for a runway and then you put the iron down and it burn your shit. But for me, it was with chiffon. I've never taken a notion to make leather with interfacing. Like VJ said, leather is already, it's sturdy enough to hold its own shape. It doesn't need any help. Anyway, I guess he learned a lesson, but I'll tell you what, his mistake worked in his favor. I'm guessing it's more suede. I don't know if it's suede or, a more silky, not silky, but shiny textured leather. Either way, when you buy leather, it doesn't, well, faux leather does. Faux leather comes on a bolt. So I believe Antonio used faux leather. Real leather comes as a skin. And so when you have a bolt, you got a nice, even piece of fabric that, if you make a mistake, you could probably work it out where you can, just cut another piece. But with real leather, you buy that skin, which is really expensive. Like, you don't get a whole lot. You get a little piece, probably not even a yard necessarily. It depends on, what the skin is. And then if you mess up, it's not a square piece of fabric. It's like all odd shaped. So for him, it worked out for the best. And I will say, like, I've run into that situation before multiple times, many times over the years. A mistake turns into something that, takes you in a direction far better than what you were working with. And had he not made that mistake, he would have just had a plain tube top. And, the skirt would have been plain. And so these little things, messing with textiles and, figuring out different, because, when you look at like some of those um, Western stores, some of those vintage, I guess you would call it, looks pieces, they have that kind of old, worn look to it. So shout out to Jesus for falling into a happy mistake. Ethan said it looks like boob sweat. Now he's got Jesus all in his head. And Jesus says he trusts Ethan's judgment. And I want to know why that is, because Ethan wants you off the show. And so I wouldn't trust what he said. I would kind of step back, maybe get everybody's opinion, which might make you even worse and more insecure. Just step back for a minute and, trust your judgment. That's all I can say. Don't trust Ethan's judgment. Trust your own judgment. Ethan has had, you can't tell if Ethan or Utica is over here leading you down the wrong path. Christian comes in to do the critique and he loved it. So there you go, which means nothing a lot of the time, because Christian sometimes will say he hates something and they get on the runway and love it. But it's always good to have some input, good or bad. It kind of gives you an idea what direction you need to go in. What'd you say, Kylie? First rule of survival. What now? She said, first rule of survivor, never trust anyone for any reason ever. Love that. That's my motto. What was the name of that show? That was a animated movie. What was that? The I can't remember the name of it, but that's what the daddy told the kids, and I live by that. I love that. Never trust anyone for any reason ever, especially if they're in competition with you, because you don't know if they're trying to lead you down the wrong path. Usually on these, seasons of Project Runway, designers will connect with one another, build friendships with one another, and help each other out with things that they're weak, at. When somebody finished, you'll see, we don't see any of that. So, we got to talk about it over here. Somebody gets finished and then their friend needs help. So they're over there sewing buttons and cutting things out and doing all of these things to help each other out. They're making a big deal about the Estrada brothers working together, but people have worked together many times in the workroom without being related to one another. So generally what happens is they, the crudes, that's the name of it. It was just twirling and buffering in the back of my head. Generally, they don't mind working and helping out their friend until it gets to the end and they got to see who's going to go home and who's not. Then it gets down to who's going to make it to the finale. Then the friends don't really be friends like they used to be friends. So, Estrada brothers helping each other is not really so much. The only difference is they're brothers. So otherwise, I've seen Miss Joan help. People who get done is so fast. Ethan sews very fast. And although we haven't seen it, I bet he's been of assistance to someone in that workroom. So, like I said, sometimes a happy mistake works in your favor. Melania is making something, oh, I don't know, from the Macy's junior department like she often does. That's my opinion. I don't really have a whole lot of time to spend over here with this lady. She said if she was going to go to a party, a Western themed party, then that's what she would make. That's what she would wear. Kristen, was just trying to get her story together because the last time she was on the runway, she told a story about Audrey Hepburn and her streetwear outfit. And Law Roach said, no, that ain't it. That's not what it is. So now she's going to just say, well, if I was invited to a Western themed party, then this is what I would go make for myself. That's what it looked like. It looked like you went down to the fabric store and made yourself a Western themed costume. But hey, this is my opinion. And apparently my opinion is not really aligned with what the judges thought. Antonio, I feel like this was probably his best look so far. I think his look was definitely on task, but I also think that Antonio's look was it's not something that we haven't seen before. And Yuchin is over here making a silver sequins tube dress with boob horns. And so I don't know what his inspiration, he said Tibetan horns. I feel like he was leaning in the wrong side of Tibet. He should have left the bull horns out in the fields and worked on something different that was more like fashion and not like whatever that was. It was like some type of, sexy stripper costume when you come up there with your horn titties and shake around a little bit before you exit that tube dress that he made. Ethan had tried to give him ideas. I heard they were good ideas. He said something about a bustle, what I was like, that would make the dress a little more interesting, but he didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear no ideas. Ethan's like, okay, well, I'm trying to help you, child. If you don't want to listen, then don't. And I'm not, really buying his excuse that his culture is getting in the way. Because like I said, he has exposure. He know Beyonce. Nobody said he had to make a silver, tube titty horn dress, but he's not that removed from that removed from Western wear. Where do he live now? He doesn't know anything about Martians. He was getting ready to make a Martian jacket. He don't live on Mars. So he doesn't know anything about princesses. You know what I'm saying? And not in real life, I don't think. Disney villains and princesses. I guess, he doesn't know about Disney. I'm just saying, that's not an excuse. VJ Child is over here making a red vinyl fringe dress. And let me tell you, I don't know what that inspiration was. It reminded me of the car wash. When you go through the car wash and the things be going over top of your car. That's what she looks like. That's what her dress remind me of. It's funny because VJ doesn't like Estrada 1 or Estrada 2, but she didn't have any problems talking smack about Ethan, though, to Estrada 1. Estrada 1 is Jesus because he's been here before. I'm glad Jesus didn't give her what she was looking for. She went over there trying to stir up some mess, talking about Ethan's look. The judges don't like it when you reference each other. So, she's saying that look that she did, that wool look, for whatever reason, she felt like Ethan was copying her. And Jesus is like, his dress looked like what he does. So, yeah, I'm not falling for that. I don't blame him because I've been I don't want to say a victim, but I've had people do that where, they try to stir stuff up to see if you're going to spread it. Leave me out of it. If that's what you think, then go tell Ethan. And that's what she did. She went over to Ethan and told Ethan that his dress was reminiscent of her dress. And that the judges don't like that. And Ethan is like, what dress? Whose dress? Yours, child. What do y'all think? Let's see. Do you think that Ethan's dress? Well, we'll get into that later. Let's go over the looks first. Where do we want to start? There is no middle. There's just top and bottom. Okay, we can start with Ethan's dress then, and then we'll decide if Ethan's dress and VJ's dress were anything alike. I don't think so. So this is Ethan's look, his Western cowboy look. Um, I think this is fire. I'm sorry. They said their critique because Ethan ended up on the bottom, which, okay, y'all. I don't know what y'all are on. According to them, I feel like Ethan really didn't end up on the bottom, and they just should have told him he was safe and left them other two on the bottom by themselves like they did last week. There was no reason to put him on the bottom. Um, and they kind of admitted to that. Like they really liked it. So the critique was the straps. VJ is Delulu. Sometimes, yes. Um, they said the little ties should have been a different color. I suppose at the end of the day, if they were brown, would you like it any better? I feel like the ties wouldn't probably make any difference for me. And then the bust, they decided was not flattering. If y'all can accept them little tube top things that all of these designers, except for Ethan, I would say the Estradas and Yu Chin have all put, looks down the runway with a little strap of fabric across the boobs and calling it a top. So, I don't know. I'm not really feeling that critique necessarily. Project Runway is rage baiting us because how is this in the bottom? I don't know. I mean, technically it wasn't. When you listen to what the judges had to say, they didn't they definitely liked it. They just liked other things better. And so that's why I said just say he's safe then. But for me, I love this dress. Are the boobs ill-fitting? I don't think her boobs look bad here. Maybe it could have been adjusted. Ethan said he's used to designing over fake boobs that don't move. So maybe, you should put some real titties in the dresses, Ethan, so you could figure out, how they actually work because they move. And this girl actually had breasts. And that's another thing. Like the models that these other people, Yu Chin and the Estradas, are putting down the runway are for women that are completely flat chested. She has a little bit of boobs compared to the other models. So, in my opinion, this was definitely should have been on the top. I would have said top two for sure. I think this dress is definitely rivaling Estrada's dress. So Miss VJ thinks that this dress looks like hers. So Kylie says she's Delulu. It's giving Delulu. Let's see. I know I pulled it up here from somewhere. Maybe not. Now I gotta go get it. It only allows me to put so many things on here. So here, I can remove this. Miss Joan and Yu Chin from last week. And then let's see what Yu Chin was over here. Not Yu Chin, VJ. VJ was over here talking about Ethan copy her dress. I'm like, absolutely did not happen. Okay, here we go. Do these look similar? I don't. Okay, there's slits in the front. But when VJ put this dress on the runway back, a few weeks ago, my opinion was it looked like it wasn't finished. This is the dress that Sofia Vergara was supposed to be wearing. And when I look at this, it doesn't give that at all. This dress looks unfinished. So for VJ to say that Ethan is copying, there's some similarities, but I mean, okay, then go to the store because everything is similar in somewhat. Everybody's dressed, jackets have fringes and things. So there were similarities, as far as these two dresses are concerned. I don't know. I feel like Ethan's dress is fire. And doesn't it all remind me of Yu Chin? I'm not Yu Chin, VJ's dress. So what do y'all think? Do you think these dresses look alike? I just don't. So there's that. Nobody else did either. They just absolutely really liked his look. Idea is truly original. So what do you mean? I mean, I could see, oh, no idea is truly original. You're right. You're kind of pulling from somewhere and you can't, like I said, reinvent the wheel. A skirt is a skirt is a skirt. You could just make it cool. That's why the styling is so important, because if the styling is bad, it takes away from the design. I don't particularly love these boring pumps with this boring gray wool dress. The dress is not boring for me. I like the dress, the gray one. I just feel like it looks like it's not done. It looks like there's some more elements to it versus Ethan's dress that looks complete in one day. And this is one grommeting fool. If Ethan know he can do one thing, he can dang sure make some grommets and lace some things up. So yeah, I really like that look. Um, who else was kind of in the middle? Antonio. Antonio has been trying to get to the winning spot. They had a little conversation how he hasn't won anything yet. I mean, I feel like he should earn it. I feel like if he, and a lot of people like this look. For me personally, I think it was just safe. I think, first of all, I don't think there's anything here that we haven't seen before. It looks like, you know, it's definitely well made. I'm giving him positive things because I don't usually like what he does, but this jacket is dope. You could, wear that jacket, not as a whole outfit. Usually when I see these designs, I start picking things apart, trying to see what thing I like, how I would actually wear it, because most of us don't walk around in a whole outfit. However, this one was dope. I mean, I liked it. I just don't feel like it's anything I've not seen before. I could go to the store and get. I don't know if I would have chose those boots. Just, the whole white thing is just a lot. It's faux leather, so pull on that. I prefer me some real leather. I don't do faux leather. I know it's probably not appropriate, but I'm a sinner and I'm probably going to sin again. So you said they don't look alike at all. You're talking about Ethan and VJ's look. No, they didn't look alike. They were, they were completely different with some basics, like you said, ideas. My other issue with this is I don't mind the hair, but I feel like the hair is in the way of seeing the jacket. Had her hair been pulled back in a pony where you can see everything she has going on, because there's fringe, there's buttons, there's buckles, there's a lot going on. So I see feathers. I do like the feather. I just wish the rest of her hair was pulled back so I could see, his look better. This buckle tube top was the beginning of a great idea. I want these girls to have on a whole top. Putting this fabric around, to me, it's not fair. It's not fashion. You could have executed that same idea. Time is, limited, but you could have executed that same idea by making an actual top. That would have really, for me, probably changed my mind and took it over the top for me. Estrada 2, I preferred Estrada 1. That's just my personal taste. Not so different, honestly. These looks are very similar, except that coat is, one thing I'm going to say about Jesus, I think Jesus would definitely be a coat maker because his coats be fire. I love how he added the fringe on the fabric that, the silhouette is strong. I feel like anybody could wear that what do you call it? Duster. Anybody could wear that. That's the thing right there. Like if you I always say jeans, but jeans are definitely very Western. You could wear that with some jeans and go to dinner or go to a party. Like this duster with the fringe on it, you can do a whole lot. You can make it casual. You can make it, more formal. I do like the detail, even though Ethan said it looked like boob sweat. I do think that the burn marks, on the fabric definitely elevated it. I like the boots. Unlike with Antonio, these boots give you just a little more skin, breaks it up a little bit. And I don't know that the short boots would have worked with Antonio's look. I just wasn't a fan. I was looking at a lot of boots. So for me, this Estrada was the winner this week, and I feel like he definitely deserved it. The collar added a little character, and her boobs are covered, even though she's like not voluptuous. The tube top looks more like a tube top than a piece of fabric just thrown up on, with a pin in it to keep her safe for the runway. So the judges thought this was the top look, and I want to agree with that. I think it had a lot to do with the styling. The styling is very important because when you put the Estrada brothers, the looks together, they look like they from the same country group. This is just the Beyonce, and that other girl is the Kelly. Y'all, I saved this one because this is better than Ethan's look. I'm not sure what's going on here. This is definitely not better than Ethan's look. To me, the judges loved it. They were fawning all over it. In, those brown boots, really? When I look at this, one thing crosses my mind, and that's Andy's coming. I want everybody to fall out. Every time this look comes across the screen, I thought Andy's coming. I'm not a judge, so this is what they liked. Like I said, she said she made, if she got invited to a Western themed party, then she would go make this for herself. What'd you say, Kylie? It looks childish. I think it does. I think it looks childish too. I think it does, but I think most of her things look childish. It's giving almost costume. And they pointed out a lot of elements, but you can't even see them to me because there's so much going on. The shirt underneath the skirt, it's a whole lot. She's not invited to the cookout. Unfortunately, not invited. Yeah, so those were our top three. Y'all, I don't know. Y'all made the show boring. Y'all took a lot of stuff out. Bottom three, I told you that Ethan is on the bottom. VJ also on the bottom. She said she was looking for a modern cowgirl. I don't know what. It looks like two different dresses, or I don't know why she would be walking around with that plastic, shingle shredded. She did this thing on the side, which was confusing to me, to be honest. Law Roach said that she understands a woman's body. I guess, but it looks like some piece of plastic on top of a dress that we can't see. So maybe VJ should have really leaned into that nude black thing that she had going on under there. And I don't know. I don't like the idea of plastic anywhere on it, but that's probably what screwed her over. If she would have chose a different fabric, leather, suede, like everybody else was, if this dress was draped in black suede, I probably would have a completely different opinion about it. But this red thing looks weird. Somebody said she was sticking outside the box and she made the girl look like a box. I can't remember who said that. It looks like something I made out of notebook paper and red markers when I was a kid. Whew. Yeah. I mean, you have to give her credit for construction because her construction is good. But like I said, imagine this dress. We come over here every week trying to change people's design around. Imagine this same dress, except for the fringe was actually black suede. She did all that hand cutting anyway. She might as well just let it look like, something that you would want to actually wear. So they don't like it. I don't like it either. Okay, Yu Chin. What is this? Honestly. What is this supposed to be? He literally sent that lady out there with a side split, it's tube dress with some horn titties. And then he embellished them. And he embellished that hat. And then he put white boots with it. The styling is terrible. This particular model, I forget her name, but she's always got a good spirit. She always comes out and, serves the best she can, and she played with the little horn boobies. And, what else are you going to do? If somebody gave me horn boobies on my dress, I'd probably play with them too. This is terrible. And this, I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking. I feel like Yu Chin is lost. I feel like he's lost himself. He comes up with ideas, techniques, rather than thinking about the clothes first. You gotta, the techniques are cool, but you gotta have silhouettes and things that make sense. And I don't know anybody that's gonna walk around with some horn titties on unless they down there to P Valley hosting, the grand opening of the Pank. I might have went like a little left. Some of y'all ain't gonna know what I'm talking about, but for those of you who know, it's definitely giving P Valley. All we need is a pole for this lady to swing around, bounce her booty cheeks. That's where they left it, y'all. These are the 3 bottom looks. We're getting down to fewer designers, so we're spending less time over here. What do y'all think? Ethan is obviously out. We're not even going to consider him as part of the bottom. For me, we can put Andy over here and put Ethan in the top. That's kind of a ripoff. I'm with you, Kylie. They're rage baiting us. And then you got, the horn booby dress, which is ridiculous. What's worse? Horn boobies or plastic vinyl shredded, car wash material? The bottom 2 and Ethan, to be honest. The bottom 2, what? I'm confused by that one, Kai. Yeah, who do you think is going home? I think it's going to be Yu Chin because, like I said, VJ has some good ideas, and her construction is always really good. That's never been a problem for her. And Yu Chin, like Miss Jones said, you're just starting your career, and hopefully you could take away some things that you've learned over here. I don't feel like Yu Chin is going to be able to, like he was in the bottom. He hasn't been in the top since the first couple weeks. Like he had a great start and then he just went downhill from there. So yeah, Yu Chin, I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably, going to be time for you to go. And I don't know what the challenge is next week. I know there's very few people and I'm shocked to say that the Estradas are both still here. So yeah, this is how I felt about the bottom. And La Roche didn't like it either. Where did it go? How are y'all feeling about the season? I mean, like I said, over at the Project Runway fan page, they're not feeling it. This is what I feel.
I think this was a winning look. The taste level here is beyond.
Beyond good or beyond bad?
Beyond bad.
Yeah, okay.
We hate the dress. We hate the dress. We hate the dress.
We hate the dress, Yu Chin. I'm sorry to say that, but we hate the dress, y'all. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, and you know what I'll do. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, y'all.